gratitude, you're grounded, you're balanced, you're centered, you're objective. And once you get a hit of it, man, you just want to keep going back. We don't know how much longer we have on this planet. So if you've been holding back from doing things you would love to do, get started the second after you're done listening to this. If I say I should do this, I need to do this, I have to do this, I'm supposed to do this, right? It's like, well, according to who? Like, who said that's the way it's supposed to be?
Ever felt flawed, like there was something wrong with you, or something that you didn't like about yourself? What if the very parts of you that you've been trying to change or to hide are actually the keys to unlocking your fullest potential in both life and in business? Welcome to Superstates, Practices of Transformation. Superstates explores the intersection of trance states with personal growth. And in each episode, we talk to world-class experts, industry leaders, and revolutionary thinkers who share the latest information, tools, and their own personal stories to inspire you on your journey. In today's episode, I'm excited to bring on Carly Pepin, a human behavior specialist and a business consultant who helps leaders align their inner dynamics with their business goals. Carly shares her unique approach to uncovering authentic purpose, creating lasting change, and finding deeper fulfillment. Join me as Carly shares how integrating all aspects of ourselves can help us thrive in life and business. Here we go. Integrating shadow work for business success with Carly Pepin. Welcome to Superstates. Today I have a special guest with me, Carly Pepin. Carly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Joshua.
I'm excited to jump in with this, Carly. Describe to us what you do and what kind of an impact that makes on people's lives.
Yeah, so I'm a human behavior specialist in conjunction with being a business consultant. So when I think about like business, people, I like to work from the inside out, right? There's tons of actions we can take on the outside, but I know many business owners have experienced this where we'll go do all the things that we're supposed to do and we're meant to do, and somehow things still don't work out for us, right? And then we're like, what is actually going on? What's occurring? So I also love to focus on the inside dynamic as well, understanding where challenges are at, maybe some of our fears, what we're pushing back, what we're avoiding, so that we can kind of overcome these internal challenges, which gives us greater inspiration and drive in our business. And the reason why I love business so much is because it's such a great tool to provide impact to people. You know, I love working with business owners who care about people, which means not just their customers or their clients, but then also the employees that work under them, their teammates, stuff like that. Because it's quite inspiring when you make an impact on someone's life, and like having a business is a great opportunity to reach a lot of people, right? So it's inspiring when you have the opportunity to help individuals like that get to the other side of their challenges so they can reach more and more to a greater degree.
And human behavior specialist, I really, when I was looking at your website, that made me really curious. Like, what exactly is a human behavior expert?
Yeah. So when we think about human behavior, there's a lot of times where we'll go through different, books and this and that to try to train ourselves to be one way or the other, right? We actually try to train ourselves to be one-sided. But our behavior as humans, we display two sides on a regular basis. You will never get rid of a part of yourself, ever. You can try as much as you want, and then I'll just sit there with you for a few minutes and I'll ask you some questions and you'll be like, oh, I never got rid of it. And I'm like, no, you did not. Because it serves a purpose. So when we focus on human behavior, we want to focus on why the behaviors are actually coming forward and in what form. There are going to be some behaviors that we're demonstrating and that we have that can challenge our lives to a certain degree. So we want to understand why they're there, why they're coming forward, and then we transform them. We don't actually get rid of them, but we transform them. So for example, I do the human behavior work, but also I'll do group workshops as well. And in a group workshop, my main focus is to get the group to their transformation by the end of the group, right? That's the goal. That's what you came for. That's what you paid for. That's what I'm going to give you. So if someone actually comes in, which has happened before, and they're messing around and they're, taking people off track. I go from being like, well, one lady, she really described it well. She's like, you're very thorough and nice, but also kind of intense. I'm like, yes, I am, because I want
Mhm.
you to get a result, right? So I can be really nice and really thorough and sweet, but there's also a level of intensity there. And instead of thinking that I have to only be nice, it's like, no, 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 that's the intensity that's keeping them working on a regular basis. But I also have been really tough, right? Where I've actually gotten frustrated and made sure when people are getting out of line, like in a workshop, to get them back on track because they're distracting other people. People have paid a significant quantity of money. They're taking a whole weekend off of their life to be there. And it's like, if you're going to waste our time, you're about to get challenged, right? So we don't want to have that one side of ourselves. We want to have both sides because both sides are necessary to be able to help us to grow and thrive. When we put a label that one thing is better than the other, we shouldn't be a certain way. We're actually disowning one of the greatest tools that we have, is just these different parts of ourselves. So I
Mm.
like to think of all these like different behaviors that we have as tools. And when we remove the judgments of like good or bad, I need to be this way, I should be that way, you actually naturally bring forward the best case scenario in that situation. Part of the work that I do with individuals is when we can't see that, we go through and we actually, like, I'll ask a series of questions to help them see how the behavior that came through was the perfect behavior. Because oftentimes when we have that label, well, not oftentimes, just consistently, when we have a label that we shouldn't have done that, we're bad, we're wrong, we need to be different than we are, we feel guilt, we feel shame, and that actually holds us back from creating to the next levels because we don't feel deserving of the life that we would love to create. We don't feel deserving of doing what we would love to do and moving forward. So that's why we ask those quality questions, to help you see the perfection of who you are, not who you think you should be, because the label that you're putting on yourself is not nearly as magnificent as who you truly are and how you show up on a regular basis.
Hmm. I really like that frame of that's not show you're not showing up as, that's not who you really are. Like, we really are all of these parts, right, together. And it kind of sounds like what you're talking about is shadow work. It's like integrating all these aspects of us to become something whole.
Yeah, yeah, I love this. Okay, so great example, because I forget sometimes all the shadow work and how that's been actually marketed to such a great degree so people can understand it. But yeah, it's that shadow side. And sometimes it's like, but this is the thing, shadow is even a label. Like, we think of shadow as dark. But what if I told you your shadow side is actually part of your light?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're going to take that to the next level. Like, I want you to be so appreciative and grateful for who you are, that you realize the shadow side is the light side. And sometimes the light side is the shadow side, that both are just
Yeah.
interchanging on a regular basis. And we only put those labels based on someone else's experience of us, right? So,
Yeah.
like, if I go and I support someone in something, and then all of a sudden they're puffing me up and telling me I'm amazing for it, I've labeled that as light. But if I support someone in something and they get mad at me and they're like, I just wanted to figure out how to do it myself, why do you have to step in all the time? Then all of a sudden that part of me is dark. So what's the truth? It's dark to some people, it's light to some people, but in reality, it's just both. And
Yeah.
it'll come out whenever it's necessary, like not just for me, but for the people around me as well. Like,
Mm.
sometimes people require support, sometimes they require challenge. And sometimes, like that example where someone, like, might say to me, like, why are you over supporting me? Sometimes it's required in that moment for them to use their voice. Maybe they hadn't spoken up, shared that with me. Maybe I didn't know. So me challenging them brings that forward, right? So it's
Hmm.
really cool. Like, everything exists in all the shadow and the light, and it's the label we put on it that makes us label it as one thing or another when it has both sides. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, I resonate with that. And I like you're calling it the label. I might say the story that we put around that too, but it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We're making some shit up and
Yeah.
applying it to these different either parts of us or even experiences in our life that are literally just experiences. They aren't good or bad. That's the story that we tell about them or the label that we put on them.
Yeah, and beautiful. Like, story is another great way to explain it, because we do have the stories as well, where like certain experiences are good and certain experiences are bad. But those ones that we label bad, when we go back and see how it like helped us and served us, we'll see that those are the challenges that got us to the other side, pulled out a part of us that we hadn't experienced yet, helped us to experience ourselves in a new, inspiring way, right? It was the innovation station. It was like all those different dynamics. And initially we labeled that as the story of that was bad or wrong, and I don't want to go through that again. And it's funny because we'll put the story of when things work out as perfectly okay. Yet,
Mm-hmm.
like when things are working out, I have no need to innovate. I'm actually not as creative when things are smooth and when things are just like baselined. I'm not as creative. I have no need to be. And so what's funny is, and this is when I work with clients as well, is like, I do want to help you overcome your challenges and shift through them, but not so you can have no challenges. I want you to actually start focusing on creating challenges that inspire you, right? Because in that baseline state, when we're all cool, comfortable, and nothing is happening, we start to get bored. We start to get inactive. We're not actually evolving and creating the way that we would love to, right? And so if we have like this long-term goals, long-term mission, this vision for our life, or even what we would love to leave behind, I know that every day you baseline, you'll be like, oh, I don't really have as much going on. Well, what was the next step? What was the next thing that I really wanted to work on? It's like, I can actually get that started today. And you take on the new challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You pick the challenge you want to go through. Because if you're not picking it, the universe fills your time with things that are still challenging, but not as inspiring, because you're still meant to be here and learn the lessons. You're still meant to grow. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love to help people refine their lives and their purpose to such a degree where it's like, let's focus on creating those challenges in the way that's inspiring the most to you. So when you get to face your next challenge, what do you want to go through? What do you want to experience? It doesn't always come through the way you expected, but
Yeah.
definitely by the time we get through it, we're like, I get it now. That was perfect. Like that was perfect for me to get here today so I could have what I wanted.
Love it. So I'm curious how you got to this point. Like, what was your journey of discovery that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles, and I thought at a certain point, it was like right before I turned 30, so I was like 29 years old. I perceived that LA was just the cause of all my challenges. Like it's just I was like, it's LA, which anyone who's been to LA probably has had the same perception, although I've shifted it. So we'll go through that now. So I decided to move, and I moved to another country because I was like, well, I have to move to Australia, apparently. Like I had the opportunity, but apparently that was necessary in my perception and in my brain. I realize now that that was the necessary challenge for me to create so I could disconnect myself from everything that was actually distracting me, because LA wasn't the problem, but everything that I had going on in my life was distracting me from the core root of what was going on internally. So when I got to Australia and I didn't have anything around, none of those problems, none of those people, nothing. Not only were my problems the same, but they had intensified and amplified because I realized that those things were just distractions. And that's when I first understood that things come from the inside and not the outside. And I had tried traditional therapies and stuff before, and it just hadn't worked for me, which is, not for everyone. Sometimes really genuinely works for people, but just didn't work for me. And that's when I found my first coach. And my first coach started to teach me how to understand my life purpose, what was valuable to me, and just got me to live in it. And the amount of transformation I received from literally just living more purposely was amazing. Like it was amazing. I had anxiety for years, and I had been taking like Xanax, right? And then after shifting that, I was able to get off of it, which was just, it was like a phenomenal experience for me because I thought it was going to be something that I was on for the rest of my life. I tried to get off it before, and I realized that I actually do get anxious when I'm not living a purposeful life. I mean, not an awful trigger to have, by the way, because it's like, you don't want an anxiety card, just get on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
not awful. Like, I'm actually quite grateful for that lovely little trigger that I have. So that was one of the things that really started to sell me on understanding human behavior, because I realized even that behavior of being anxious was feedback, right? And so it was feedback trying to tell me personally that I was on track. By the way, everyone has anxiety for different reasons, but that was my initial trigger. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
have it. So if you have it, it's might be different, or maybe you notice and you're like, it's actually the same, Carly. So it could be, but there's a lot of different reasons we have it. So that was really helpful. And then after that, I really was sold, because that was just such a big transformation. I just got sold. And the next thing I learned is how to ask quality questions to be grateful for your life, grateful for the challenges you're going through, taking personal accountability and responsibility to a greater degree. And that also was incredibly helpful too, because then I started to understand that the challenges that I was going through and the things that I had experienced, that life wasn't a crapshoot, that things were on the way to helping me to get to where I wanted to go. And it wasn't like everything was in the way. And it was really cool because I was in Australia for years. So I had that like journey, decided to sign up for coaching after that, because you get results like that and you're like, I want to teach it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, when I came home to Los Angeles, it was just a completely different perspective. And I remember coming home and just thinking, I'm going to live here. Like, I'm going to live here like I've never lived here before. I'm going to explore it like I'm not from here, because I've never even given it that chance. And now it's my favorite. It's literally one of my favorite cities in the world. Like, it will forever be a home base. I can't imagine, no matter where I live on this planet, I have certainty that LA is now like my home base. That's how much I absolutely adore it. So it wasn't the outside, it was the inside. And when I connected with the inside, I realized like this has like also been my outside home all along, And no matter where I've lived in the world, I'm like, this place feeds my soul. So I wouldn't have been able to even connect with that without like going through that internal process, which is why I find it so valuable, important today, why I love talking about it, teaching it. This has genuinely just changed how I experience life.
Hmm. When you're working with a
Mm.
client who is kind of in that place where you were way back then,
Yeah.
how do you start the process with them? Like what's the first step?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny because even when clients like get stuck in the situation, they see a smile come across my face because I'm like, oh, we're going to get such great insight. And they're having a hard time and they laugh and they're like, I knew you were going to smile. And I was like, because we're going to get something good. So I actually love working with this stuff because basically whenever we have that depression, what is going on is we're depressed about our life because we're thinking it should be a certain way, and we don't appreciate ourselves and our purpose for what it is. So I love actually working with like the depression component and diving in, because I get to ask the questions to find out like, who are you comparing yourself to? What did you think your life was supposed to be like? And how is the way your life is now magnificent? What are you getting out of it? And as we go through all those questions and fine tune all the details, we get to uncover deeper insights onto what this person's true purpose is. And then when they get that, they stop thinking their life needs to be different. They appreciate it the way it is, and then they get to experience it to a greater degree, right? So that depression goes away, because of course you're going to be sad if you think there's something wrong with your life. Like, of course that's going to make you sad. That makes sense, right? But if you realize your life is magnificent the way it is, you're perfect the way you are, you don't have to change anything, then you get to embrace and expand where you're already at and do it authentically, right? And this doesn't mean like your whole life is going to change into like some crazy different like thing. Like, oftentimes it stays very similar to the way it is, but you just stop judging it. And
Mm.
that judgment gets out of your head. And so you just get to live and be in that experience and enjoy it. And when we have that, it changes how we feel every day when we wake up. We wake up and we don't have to think like, I have to do this, I need to do this. You don't dread your days. You don't feel like you need a vacation from your life. Like, I want your life to feel like a vacation to such a degree, like you don't want to walk away from it. Walking away from it and taking a vacation may be challenging because you love your life like that much. That's what I'm saying is like the possibility for people, right? Is like just that's a great issue to have. Like,
Mhm.
not sure I want to take a vacation because I love my life so much and I don't want to take a break from it. Right. So it's like, okay, well, how do I keep all these beautiful things that inspire me while being on a vacation? Right. Now that's my new question. Whenever I travel, I'm like, well, I want to do this, but I don't want to give up all these other things that I love. And I ask myself the question, well, how can I incorporate both? Right. So that I could still feel fulfilled. I don't need to take a vacation from my life anymore. So we want to shift the perception to such a degree that you're able to see and enjoy the magnificence of your life. So every day you wake up and you're like, I get to live this life. I get to do that. I get
Mm.
to do this. And when the vacation comes, it's not because you need it and you need that break. It's just another inspiring part and component that's just going to give you deeper insights as opposed to saving you from your mere existence. Like, which, by the way, like I totally get because I escaped to another country for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, only to realize I had nothing I needed to escape from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is I think this is a really common
Mhm.
thing that we think we think we need something outside to feel good, or we need
Yeah.
that break from reality to have to feel good, or something to look forward to in the future so that we can deal with the now. But as you said, living in the now is really the most important thing anyway. It's all the things that we get to do, and I love that frame of getting to do this instead of having to do this or needing to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool because we can check in on that language. That's a great language to check in on is when we wake up in the morning, anything that we're doing, if I say I should do this, I need to do this, I have to do this, I'm supposed to do this, right? It's like, well, according to who? Like who said that's the way it's supposed to be, right? As opposed to I would love to do this, right? And this is important, this is valuable to me, I want to do this, I choose to do this. That I know is coming from your own authentic self. When you're shooting yourself,
Mhm.
I know it's coming from an outside source. It does get a little bit tricky. This is where, just I'm doing it for a while, you get all the inconsistencies where sometimes like you might be like, I was just talking to someone who might get to work together, but they were wanting to build a business, but they were shooting themselves on the how. And so
Mm.
when I listen to that language, I know I can focus with this person on building the business, but it's time for us to figure out what their authentic how is, because this isn't the way it's going to go. They think it's how it should go. And that's why they're procrastinating and they don't want to do it. So we would focus on the authentic how. But they did say, I want to build a business. If I get on a phone call with someone and they say, I should build a business, I know that's actually not coming from someone like from yourself. That's coming from someone else. So like it's really important to catch that language because we want to figure out where that's coming from. And when
Mm.
you clear that idea that you need to or should, what's really inspiring is sometimes later it turns into I want to build that business, or sometimes you just are honest with yourself and you're like, I do not want to. I like my
Yeah.
life how it is and I don't need to do this. Right? So you either give yourself permission when you clear that to turn it into a want, which you don't procrastinate on your wants. You don't procrastinate on that. You only procrastinate on your shoulds, or you just completely drop it and you focus on what matters instead. So it's great. Like, yeah, that language I get to versus I have to, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
very great thing to catch to let us know when we're on track.
Yeah. I think of
Mhm.
those as disempowering words.
Yeah.
Words that we use with the intention of not following through.
Yeah, totally. Totally, totally.
So, what's changed how you work with clients kind of since you started coaching? What's different for you now?
In the beginning, you really get attached. And I would say that, I mean, this happens, I'm sure, with a lot of coaches. In the beginning, you're very attached to how things are supposed to look, genuinely. And
Hmm.
like, you may know the possibilities, and you're like, it should look this way, and it should look that way, and it's supposed to look this way. Right. And it's actually not the case. Like, every person is so unique, so unique. Where it was interesting because even just reflecting on a recent consultation I had, it was the individual, we definitely could have gotten deeper with the work, definitely. But if I look at what's important to that person, had I gotten that depth, they wouldn't get the additional experience in the way that inspires them. And I don't actually want to rob them of that. I've been working with this person for, I think, 6 or 7 years now,
Hmm.
right? So they're not expecting that level of depth from me because they also want to get it from their life and living. That's purposeful to them. And so we want to understand people to such a degree. This is again where the human behavior comes in, that when you're delivering results to someone, you're not delivering them in how you think they need the results, it's how they actually want it. Because if you deliver someone results that are purposeful to them, that's going to make far greater of an impact than anything that you could ever impose on them. And every person on this planet is different. What I love about like the coaching journey is even that first couple sessions as we start doing work together is that I really get to know a person and what's important to them. And then it's like, then we get to even fine tune to a greater degree. It's like, now I understand you to a greater degree. it's go time. Like, let's just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's go time. Let's do this, and help them like to a greater degree in what's truly important to them. And sometimes it's continuing to check in because we can get stuck in our own, super ego where we're
Yeah.
like, the results need to come from me. Like, I need to be responsible for the results. But that's your super ego. That's not you being of service and being just there for the person. When we're of service for the person, it's not actually about if I get you a result. It's about what does this person require in this moment? How can I serve them to help them get what they want in life, right? And if I show up like that to each session, then I know that we're going to get an inspiring result according to them, not according to me. So that's the biggest journey is like in the beginning of coaching, it is focused on us because we're not understanding like the value of service. It really is. And we focus on us and our persona and our brand and who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to look like. And then later, after doing it for quite some time, you realize that had nothing to do with you the whole time. It's all about the
Mhm.
person in front of you. And it's like how the only thing about you is the information you have to be able to get them the other side. That's it.
Yeah.
In what they want. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the most inspiring too. Those are our best sessions is when we focus on them. We walk away from those like, that was so inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking with a coach friend of mine the other day and sharing, I was sharing about how I want to be more active online and I was having trouble describing how I want to be because I kept finding myself saying how I want to be on this video, but it wasn't right because it's not what I wanted to be. It was what the value was that I was giving. Like it's about what the person is receiving. And that was
Yeah.
my challenge was I don't want this to, it doesn't have to be about me. This is about what's getting to them.
Yes.
I think that's what you're talking about here as well.
100%.
It
Yeah.
also makes me think of like a coach, a good coach versus consultant, right? Where consultant's going to tell you what to do, you follow what they say, and you get the results. Where a
Yeah.
coach is going to ask you some questions, and they're going to probably be hard questions to answer, but the answers are going to come from you, not from the coach. The coach just asks the questions.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is fun too, because this is like even in business, like technically I do business consulting and we get into all this strategy, but I still make them do that. Because like and
Uh-huh.
this is where your ideal client comes in your niche. Because if you just want me to come in and boss you around and tell you what to do, I'm bored. I'm not interested. It's gonna work for you, but there's someone else out there that's your perfect fit and it's not me.
Uh-huh.
If like you're really focused and you have like a deeper vision and a deeper drive and an internal desire to be connected with this in a different way, to have more meaning and purpose than just kind of day-to-day tasks, then yes, that's what I want to do. I want to go in, ask you questions, because even the strategies that we play out in our business are based on what's valuable and important to us. Like I have a client and they work with teams, right? And they love personal development and they love coaching, but they don't coach in a traditional form. They coach their teams. So they're
Mm-hmm.
not doing one-on-one coaching or group coaching as I'm doing, but they still are doing it. They just do it in a business dynamic instead. So if
Yeah.
I go in and I give that person a list of tools according to like basic, the stuff that works, and I just tell them to do this, it's not going to work unless I'm actually incorporating it and integrating it into their purpose. And so it's funny. Yeah, I totally agree with that, which I absolutely love is like, let's not just take these tools and these things that work, but let's make them personalized to what's valuable and purposeful to you so that every day that you're doing it, it's almost like you're carefully crafting something that is built from the ground up in such a unique, inspiring way that even that purpose behind it fuels other people. Like we see people, Elon Musk, I remember when he had Tesla, when was this? I feel like it was 2015 or 16. But one of my clients, they're like, you have to go invest in Elon Musk, right? And I actually hadn't heard much about him just then. But it was funny because he was just dead sold and he's like, it's going to happen. His stock's going to go up. And when I went and I looked at his profit and loss and his balance sheet, I was like, this guy's like running on debt. And then I started to look him up and that's when I started to get to know him. And I was like, oh, he's inspiring.
Yeah.
He's really inspiring. And he's on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm not investing in his business skills. I'm investing in this man who's on a mission. And I do agree because he's on such a mission and he's so dedicated to achieving it. I'm like, he's for sure going to figure this stuff out on the back end. And so that's part of like infusing that inspiration within your company, within yourself, within what you're doing, is that people want to join in with you. People believe in you because you believe in yourself, because your why is so big that people feel that energy behind it and they want to get involved and engaged and they want to help you as well. Not just customers, not just the public, but also like employees too. And people feel more fulfilled working at places like that because they know they're part of something bigger and greater. And every person on this planet wants to make an impact. You don't have to be a CEO or own a company to make an impact. You're also the accountant who makes sure that it runs. You're paying attention to the numbers so that if anything falls and is off track, you go to the person and you say, if you don't get this sorted out, we're going to go bankrupt, right?
Mm.
And here's your time frame, right? That's such an important job. Every person who picks up the phone and makes sure the customer is taken care of and happy, such an important job. So it's like when you understand that and that vision and mission and that why is within like that company and what you do, people want to help. They want to sign up. They want to help. They want to feel part of making that impact. That's inspiring. So it's like you get inspired first and then you infuse that into everything that you do. And then people want to help you get to where you want to go because it's inspiring what you're doing. And
Mm.
they want to also make an impact for sure.
Mm.
Mm.
So we started with this and we kind of spread out to here. So let me just recap a little bit.
Okay.
You help people to integrate all of these different aspects of themselves, kind of so they're like not doing the thing that they already know. Like they know the strategies, they know what to do, how to do it, they're just not doing it, right? And
Yeah.
you help them integrate these parts so that they pull out the right part when they need it and they do those things. But what I'm hearing is this helps to ignite your purpose and your own inspiration personally. And I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
you, but the people that you're working with, right? The client, which infiltrates into their business because you're also business coaching. So even though you're basically doing this personal development with these people, it's around business. And that is inspiring then in a whole different level outside of just the individual. So
Yeah.
really you're making a difference in a much larger capacity than just one on, I'm going to say just because it's really not just, but in one-on-one kind of coaching. Is
Yeah.
that kind of tracking with what I'm
For
hearing
sure.
from you?
Because I'll do one-on-one with like a CEO or some of the executive team and leadership and stuff. But then we also do, like a day or two of just like huge strategy sessions. But the strategy sessions are involved around making sure that we know what we're launching specifically. And people, they can feel like you can feel into this, right? Not everyone just wants to make money for the sake of making money. There are some people out there who that is so important to them that that's what they're going to do, but it's a very, very small percentage. Most people are creating income and making money for a reason outside of that. So if you're just telling me, if you come to me and you're like, and you don't have like that drive just to make money, because if you did, you probably wouldn't reach out to me anyways. You'd be already doing
Yeah.
it. So you're reaching out to me because it's different. And so you're stuck, right? And you're not able to scale your business. You're not growing it. You're not creating the extra income. And it's like, well, you're only focusing on making money. And it's like, but that's not your real driver. And so I'm not going to get you to work as hard as you can. I'm not going to get you as invested in creativity and innovation because part of you wants to back out because you're getting bored, you're getting frustrated, you're getting burnt out because your focus, it's not that the goal can't be there, but the mission and the driver behind it is disconnected. So it's like when we go in and we understand why it's truly important to you, right? Like I was working with an individual who tried to retire, totally tried to retire, was miserable when they retired, got forced back into their company, which like when we were going through like how that was helpful for them, we uncovered that the vision was to help these individuals who are like more in a third world country live a first world life,
Mm.
right? And that was based off the challenges that they went through. So the money wasn't the driver. And the money wasn't the driver, the lifestyle wasn't the driver. That shows evidence by the level of boredom, disconnect, and just like it's just not enjoying life during retirement, even with the finances. But then getting back into the business and connecting with the people whose lives they're changing, which was their employees, that fulfilled that person. And so when we connect with that driver, all of a sudden it's not really about making money again for the company. There was some money stolen. So it wasn't about recouping the money. to make money for the company so he can have money to retire again. It was making sure that the money was made so that he doesn't have to let anyone go, so he can focus on the true vision and mission, which was changing these people's lives, right? And so that's why we want to connect with the real driver, because if I just kept him connected to, well, I need to make more money, he's bored, he's uninspired, he doesn't care, right? But this individual, when you focus on, well, this is what you're doing it for, it's like, I got this. I could do this. I could do this for that reason.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to find that deeper purpose behind it, because that's also going to shape how you build your company, how you grow your company, how you scale your company, whether you keep your company, whether you want to exit your company. Like, all those decisions are really built around that aspect as well, which is quite interesting. And it's funny because we don't even realize how personal like these corporations truly are until you really get in and talk to the owners and see how like them is just infused in everything. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like their whole lives and what they created is just infused in like this dynamic. And it's fun. I love asking the questions because then you look at it and you're like, this is amazing. Like, it's really cool what you built.
Hold on.
Oh,
Sorry
no
about
stress.
that. Um, this makes me think of in my corporate life, and I didn't work at lots of places, but the one place that I did that was the most infused like this,
Yeah.
it was started by a company or by a founder, right? Who wanted to his goal was to figure out a way to help small family farmers. Like
Nice.
that was kind of the goal, uh and that was the ethos that was infused into this company. Even when they were $1 billion company, it still has
Yeah.
the same ethos in it, and it all came down to this guy trying to figure out how to make a living way back in the day, right? And doing these things. So I hear what you're saying. The other thing that comes as you're talking about this, when you are in that inspired state and that kind of fired up state, this is a super state, right? This is when you are speaking your truth, when you're authentically being yourself, when all parts of you are working together and you're pulling out the ones that are needed in the situation. So this is
Yeah.
like a fully activated human that we're kind of talking about here.
For sure. You're most objective in this state as well, because it's like, if this why is so big, right? And people see this in, like, if you're connected to your why, you'll see this. Sometimes you'll see it with your kids, where you're going to go through pleasure and pain to make sure you work things out, right? And I know you're most objective there. I know you're most goal oriented there. I know that when you focus on that, there's a level of like, you're unstoppable. Like, you're not going to slow down because you're connected to what's so important to you. You find a way, right? It's not about like, is there a way that exists? You find a way. Elon Musk doesn't inspire us because like he just stops when things are hard. He inspires us because when he can't figure something out, he keeps going until he finds a way. What you're seeing is not it's not an unusual person. The only unusual thing is that he's given himself permission to connect with that. But
Yeah.
once you do, you get that level of drive. You do not give up. You do not care. One of my friends, she sent me something. It was really funny, where he was talking about how, like, if something's not interesting to him and he's talking to you, he'll literally he won't even say goodbye. He'll just walk away because he's like, I only have so much time in my life. I just can't listen to it if it's not interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right. So he's willing to just be that rude because he's so focused on his vision and mission.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not an unusual person, just someone who's so dedicated to it that they're not willing to give up a second of their life just to make you feel happy and pleasureful for like one moment. He's willing to challenge you to make sure to not sacrifice like everything that he's doing. And the funny thing is there's a level of selfishness there that also brings selflessness, right? If we don't figure out space travel one day, we're screwed in humanity, just period. Like, we're a ball spinning towards the sun into a black hole. Like, no matter what occurs, that is our inevitable like doom. So like, let's figure out how to not only, first we got to get off the planet, and then in centuries where we're not even going to know, someone's got to figure out how to get us to another galaxy like with livable planets, because this one ain't gonna last forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, do I want him to sit there and talk to you just so you can feel good in that moment, or do I want him to go focus on that? I'd love him to go focus on that. If we could just do that, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's how important it is, right? So when you connect to that level of like drive, like that's what you're willing to do, and that level of service to humanity long term is huge. So the level of selfishness, which gives this selflessness of really helping us in this like long term goal that most of us don't even think about because we don't have to deal with it like in this lifetime. Like he's preparing us for our future in a sense. Him, Jeff Bezos, all the other people who are kind of in the space race, right? So it's really
Yeah.
inspiring. So that's what I mean. It's like when we're dedicated to that why, every person has that inside them. Every person has that inside them. They can do that on a daily basis. It's just giving yourself the permission to connect with it to such a degree that you won't give it up. And there's already going to be things present day, because this is kind of cool. You can kind of see where it's already occurring. There are things present day that you're not willing to give up. There are things that you love to focus on that you won't let go of. And there are things that you're like, I don't care what anyone does. Like, I'm going to do this no matter what. I'm going to go through the challenge. I'm going to figure this out. And you are doing that. And those are the things that I already know have that level of purpose of value. Keep refining it, keep fine tuning it. And you'll keep getting that intrinsic inner drive where you're forced to like embrace all those parts of yourself, love and appreciate, be yourself, be authentic, and then create the meaningful impact that you'd love to create, which could, by the way, be on that grander scale. We talk about Elon Musk, but also like Rose Kennedy in her mission statement was, I want to build a family of world leaders. So she did it in a smaller scale, but she did build a family of world leaders, and that created a great impact. So when we think about what that impact looks like, sometimes we subordinate to the idea that we have to reach billions of people. But what if you just focused on what you truly want to do, which is what she did, and that also already reached billions of people as a result, more because of like history and stuff. Like it's gonna stand the test of time, her impact, by just wanting to focus on her family and raising her kids. That's it, which is also like, wow, so cool. So it's like, that's why it's important for you to connect to what's valuable to you, not what you think it should be or supposed to be, but what truly is valuable to you, and how would you love that impact to look.
So if somebody was trying to figure out what is truly valuable to them, what are some questions that you would ask them?
So your life demonstrates what's important to you. Totally. Every day you wake up and you're thinking about what's most important to you. You talk about what's most important to you. You spend the most money on what's most important to you, right? You invest the most time. It energizes you. It's those things where if I woke you up in the middle of the night and said like, can you do this? You'd be like, yeah, I could do it. I could figure it out for sure. Like no matter how tired I am, right? It's going to happen. So these are the things that your life actually demonstrates are valuable to you. This is where we have that should, supposed to, have to, where we are told purpose is something we find. Purpose is something we have to go out and discover and find in the world. But that's not true, because if purpose lies within you, why would you have to go search for it anywhere outside of you? So that's why I like to look at like what your life truly demonstrates, right? So if your life demonstrates you spend the most time, money, energy with your family, I know that that's like the highest priority for you. And if the building the small, helping small farmers to thrive, I imagine that came from his childhood and his family, probably of like, did it come from his family and like struggling small farmers?
I don't
Maybe.
know if that's where it came from, but
Okay.
that was his life at the time for sure.
That was his life, where he was a struggling small farmer.
Yeah.
Perfect. And he has a family.
Yeah.
Impacts your family. So it's like, what's really important to this guy, right? Is it the actual dynamic of business, or was it family? Like when we ask those questions, if the family was the driver, then I could never build a business with them if I was just focused on farming, because it's not really the farming. He wants to help small families.
Yeah.
So that indicates to me that something about him not being able to help his family was really painful, right? That was the really hard, challenging part. So family is important to him. And so like, it's cool because you look at it and sometimes we think money has to be important to make money, but we see other samples and examples where family is the important thing, right? Tony Robbins even explains it when he was like really poor and he was a kid and they didn't have meals. So his part of his journey of creating wealth was to make sure to put food on the table for struggling families, right? So it's like, is it the money that he wanted, or was it family that was really important? So again, it's a dynamic of family and health, which we also see with him. We see how he takes care of his health. He's like
Mm-hmm.
really important.
Mm-hmm.
His life demonstrates what's valuable to him, and he's just created an income to make sure those things thrive. So it's really cool. Pay attention to what's important to you day-to-day basis. Like, what are you focused on? What do you love? What are you invested in? Where do you spend the most money? And if it is on your mortgage, why? Why are you spending that much on your mortgage? I spend more on other things than on my mortgage because the mortgage is not the most valuable thing to me. There's other things that I invest in that are more important to me than having the house, right? Having that big house. I can definitely afford a bigger house, more fancy house, all this stuff, but that's not what I want quite yet. I'm working on some other stuff that I really love to have instead. And so that shows that that's more purposeful to me than having that house. But some people love to have the house because they want to have people over and they're entertainers. And so then I know the social contribution and having like a social environment is really meaningful to you. It's like, what do you spend your money on and why are you doing it? Why do you have your phone next to you all the time? Is it for your family to connect? Is it to do business? Is it both, right? Is it because you love researching and learning and you have access to all the stuff on there? Is it because you love your health and you're tracking all the stuff through your health apps? Like, there's a specific reason and a deeper meaning to every single thing around you. And so when you can ask those questions, you'll realize there's a massive pattern there. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's been right in front of my face the whole time. This is what I love. This is what I love. So those are great things. It's like what your life demonstrates, not what you think it needs to be or you wish it would be. What is your life actually
Mm.
demonstrating that you're invested in? And that's what's meaningful to you. And when you focus more on that and less on what you think you should, you're going to be so fulfilled and inspired. Like, you'll just be so much more productive. Yeah, it's just so much easier. Life is so much easier when you're doing things that are meaningful to you.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
When you're starting to work with somebody, what are the things that they come into the work with you where they're confused or misunderstanding? Like, what do you have to educate them on?
Yeah, a lot is just why things are occurring. I think that's the biggest one, is like why we actually have these challenges that we're in. Like, people be like, well, I don't get it. Like, I'm struggling here and I'm struggling there, because we do see other people do it. So we're like, why can't I? Right? We genuinely see, especially with social media now, access to so many other people who can do things that we perceive we haven't been able to do yet, right? So that's a big one. They want to get through whatever personal limitation, internal, external, to make sure to get them to the other side to cross that hump. The other thing is there's almost this underlying desire of understanding like how to get into that more meaningful aspect of life, right? Like, within everyone I talk to, I'll ask the question, like, they'll tell me, one person, like, I want to work on anxiety. Why? Like, I'll go through and we'll figure out where it roots from, all that fun stuff. But I'm like, why even work on it? Why do you even care? Right? And when we uncover that, all of a sudden it's because I want to do this in life and this in life and this in life, and anxiety is holding me back. And so people want more meaning and purpose. Like, when I connect with them, that's one of the common things, is like, we don't just work on something for the sake of working on it. There's something else more meaningful and purposeful to you behind that thing that you want to overcome. And even behind that, then there's the next step of meaning and purpose, and the next step of meaning and purpose. And what I found is that people really want to uncover that, and they want to experience it, because it's like, it is, once you get a taste of it and you feel that meaning and purpose, like, you just want to continue to connect with it, to understand it, to deepen it, because it does feel different. Like, having that sense of gratitude, it's different than being happy. Happy is like kind of a momentary state, but when you're grateful for something, it's really hard to take that away. It's very hard to take gratitude away from someone, where happiness and sadness are fluctuating emotional states. Gratitude, you're grounded, you're balanced, you're centered, you're objective. And once you get a hit of it, man, you just want to keep going back. And we get grateful when we connect with ourselves, our lives, our experiences for how it is, instead of all like the shoulds and misperceptions of what we
Yeah.
thought it should be. Yeah, so it's really an inner driver for a lot of people, is to understand what they're doing, where they're at, why they're there, and like how to keep moving forward in a more fulfilling way, more inspiring way.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
that.
life.
That's an awesome frame.
Mm.
What's making you excited about the future, Carly?
I do love my life. I really love my life. I am very grateful for the life I have, and I have like a lot of things that I am looking forward to in the future. So I have some businesses that I know, like ones that are short term, ones that are very long term, and what I love about it is getting to experience the small stepping stones of doing what I'm doing today, knowing that I'm getting closer to those goals in the future, but also enjoying like what I'm doing today to get there, which is like
Mm.
really fun. Like,
Yeah.
because it really, I think what really hit me too before I moved to Australia was I got the house, I got the cars, and I got the job, right? And I was like, I am not satisfied. Like I did all the end goals and I'm not satisfied, and I didn't even enjoy getting there. And after that, I really dedicated to, I don't just want to get to places anymore. Like I want to enjoy the journey along the way. Right? So part of it is like just being present like in the current experience today, while connecting with the future, resolving some of my misperceptions that are caused by past experiences, so that I can just continue to experience today as fully as I possibly can. Because the truth is like I do have plans, and I have plans for decades to come, but here's my truth. I don't know how long I'm going to live. I have
Mm.
goals, and I could definitely work on that, and I could focus on my health and do the best I can, but that's an unpredictable thing for me. And so it's like, if, and this is a question I like to ask myself and other people, like if you die tomorrow, are you satisfied with what you've done today? Can you say that? And if you can't say yes, then I would get cracking, because we really don't know how much time we have on this planet. We don't know. We don't know. There's so many unknowns. It's like, why are you not doing everything possible in this moment to ensure that you feel fulfilled, and that you could literally sit there on your deathbed and be like, I did what I could with my life and I'm grateful. We only have one chance like this. I'm never coming back as me. She's done. I don't know if
Yep.
I even come back. Nobody even knows that. We may or may not. So it's like, hop on it, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Get what you can get
Yeah.
done now, or live the
Totally.
life you want to live right now.
Yeah. And how do you do that? How do you make that happen in the most inspiring way for you? Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody wants to learn more about you, Carly, what's the best way to do that?
Hop over to my website, which is carlypepin.com. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the one insight you want the audience to leave with today?
Yeah, just remembering that we don't know how much longer we have on this planet. So if you've been holding back from doing things you would love to do, get started the second after you're done listening to this. Just get started. And the best thing to do, especially if it's something that you're like not sure how you're going to get started, that means you haven't broken it down into enough little bits and pieces. You take a goal, you break it down into like 7 steps. Each one of those steps, keep breaking it down into multiple steps. Break those steps into multiple steps until you look at something and you say, I can do that right now in this moment. And then just get started. Because, yeah, that's your life. That's your vision. There's only one person on the planet with that, and you were destined to experience it. So give yourself the opportunity for sure. Mm-hmm.
That's there's not something that could be a better piece of advice to give to someone trying to get something done.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you so much, Carly. Grateful to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate Carly's approach here. Integrating the shadow is vital as we become our most authentic selves. And it makes sense that your business will thrive as you do this work too. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button, follow the show, or share it with someone who might resonate with Carly's ideas. And for more transformation talk, check out previous episodes. Until next time, stay curious, keep growing, and embrace your transformation.